Hey, hey, hey. It's a filter-free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad that you are here. I can't mean that any more emphatically than I just said it, really. It is good to get to be on this side of the dirt today. You know, um, there's social unrest happening in South America. In fact, there are many people who are trying to leave their home countries so that they can find a safer place to live. That's happening just south of our own border. In fact, it's many of the challenges that we face as it relates to immigration. I was just watching a show, a documentary talking about certain countries in Africa. There are 54 countries. I can't remember exactly which ones were being plagued by climate change, but that the temperature was just so high that everything was dry and dead, um, and we know that there's unrest happening in Nigeria, right now. In fact, um, it might not be the safest place to go. And a few years ago, I found out that, I am 26% Nigerian. That was the pretty fun part of the ancestry DNA test. Um, but there's suffering happening all over the world. Thank you, Jessica. Oh, good. Have some milk with your tea for me this morning. I actually like my coffee, I'm sorry, my black tea with milk. And I'm glad. You know what? That made me think about milk. Even when I talk about dairy or meat, folks are like, "Oh, gotta get rid of these dead souls. Gotta eat vegan." I know that meat causes is directly connected to colon cancer in the way that smoking is connected to lung cancer. I should be, um, I don't know, growing my own foods, and I should not be wearing makeup and all the chemicals that are in them. And recently, I understand California is banning Skittles because red dye, I think it's number 40, causes cancer. And I've heard that. And I use red lipstick. Ruby Woo is one of my favorites. And in this day and time of just unlimited amounts of information, one thing that has been very, very clear to me is that there's absolutely no way for me to know about everything. And when you don't know about a thing, it is probably important that you stay silent until um, you learn more. It's actually even dangerous to say things like, my heart is with all people. One thing that sticks out to me from the murder of Mr. George Floyd in 2020 was that there were people who were trying to toe the line of, yes, there are good police officers, and some good police officers stood there, right, and watched a man be murdered right in front of our eyes. And so, if you don't understand the dynamics of policing, how police came to be, the historical context between police and Black people, you might find yourself saying something that can be very harmful to a group. In fact, one of I call Reverend Pastor Adam Hamilton my dear friend. The man don't know me well, but I call him my dear friend. And I remember right after there was a lot of police unrest here in Kansas City, Pastor Hamilton had the chief of police, Rick Smith, there at the church talking to his congregation. And Rick Smith has a lot of the same demographical um, affinity with the people who attend a Church of the Resurrection. And um, when you're trying to convey a message to an audience, people don't like to admit this, but you shift. If I'm, talking to a group of 80-year-olds, I'm going to talk to them differently than I do to a group of kindergartners, than I do to a group of CEOs for whom I've never met, than I do for my family. We adjust, we shift to be able to translate. Some people call that code switching. I call it translating. Sometimes if you speak Spanish, I need a translator to help me get the information out. Shout out to Laura Palacios, who helped me to do such a thing just a couple weeks ago. And I have been silent on issues that are happening in Palestine and Israel because the flea story is a beautiful reminder of why this is necessary. So, if you put fleas in a glass, they'll all jump out. If you put fleas in a glass and you put a lid on that glass, they'll all jump up and hit their bodies against that lid until they realize it hurts. And then they will stop jumping up high enough to hit their bodies against the lid. They'll start to jump just below the lid. And when 100% of those fleas in that glass are jumping just below the lid, you can take the lid off, and those fleas will never jump out of the glass. In fact, you can break the glass, and those fleas will never jump out of the shape of that glass. In fact, even the offspring of those fleas will never jump out of the shape of that glass. And so, 2 or 3 or 4 generations after the glass has been broken, other fleas can look and go, I don't know what's wrong with these fleas. Why are they doing this? But see, if you've been here since the beginning, you know fleas are not supposed to be in glasses with lids. And you have to question the scientists. You see, C.H. Turner, a Black man in 1910, did the first experiment on the behaviors of spiders and fleas and ants. And someone has to ask at some point, okay, Dr. Turner, why you put them fleas ain't supposed to be in glasses with lids on them? Fleas supposed to be outside on the white-tailed deer or whatever. And see, when these things come up in our lives, I understand the need to want to say, um, no one should be killed. Yes, no one should be killed. And when we are ignorant of the glasses and the lids, we might be thinking that it's the behavior of the fleas in the jar or that were in the jar, historically in the jar, that are the problem. And sugar, I posted earlier this week, Cole Riley wrote the book called This Here Flesh. I fully recommend it. It's too far away for me to get up and get them, just being lazy today. But in it, it was a book that was transformative to me. And I want to know about everything in the world. I wish I did sometimes, at least I think. And even you just can't. In fact, the more you know you don't know. In fact, the smarter I have gotten, the more ignorant I realize I am about things. And Cole Riley posted this week a reminder that it was Audre Lorde who said to us, our silence would not protect us. But when Audre Lorde said your silence would not protect you, she was saying when you have something to say, when you know that something is unjust or inequitable and wrong, and you just sit silently thinking, if I be quiet, then I'm gonna be fine. It like for me, it is for those groups who are also left out and left behind, and they are in the room when they see someone else being um, abused in the same way and they are silent. That's what Audre Lorde is talking about. Audre Lorde ain't asked you to speak up about something you ignorant about. Like what do I look like saying something about the unrest in Colombia when I don't know anything about it? You see, I have the propensity to be on the wrong side of that thing. I have the propensity to align with the people who have the power to shift what the narrative should be. What do I look like halfway around the world talking about the unrest that is happening in Nigeria when I have no idea who the players are? I ain't never seen the glasses and the lids. You see, I invite us. There, there is room for you to care about a multitude of issues. It is called our circle of concern. I am concerned about every parent who loses their child in unrest. I'm concerned about lots of things. That's why I feel like we got to have a different situation for what's happening at our borders. That's why I feel like we have to figure out immigration reform. But how can I speak on that? Because I know the difference between migrant workers. I know what an undocumented immigrant is. I understand what it means to have been brought here against your will, either through trafficking or the transatlantic slave trade, or many things. I have a decent level of understanding to speak about that. But how do you speak about when many people can't even understand that, you know what? Many of the Abrahamic religions all think the same thing, feel and believe the same thing. You probably can't really even tell the difference between the Torah and the Quran and the Bible if I read just specific passages. How then do you comment about what is happening in Israel and Palestine when you are ignorant about the topic? Don't do it, sugar. I want to know about everything. I am concerned about dairy and meat and eating right for your blood type. And should I do cardio, or should I do all the things I'm concerned about? My circle of influence is far smaller. There is hardly anything that I am going to be able to say or do that is going to impact what is happening in Israel or Palestine in this moment. First of all, let's be very, very clear. I am ignorant on the topic. And second of all, who am I influencing? Here's my circle of control. Here's what I can control. If you want to make a comment about a thing, you have a couple of choices. You can speak in ignorance and run the risk of being drastically wrong and typically on the side of the people oppressed. You can try to be neutral, even though there ain't no same thing as neutral. Or you can educate yourself so that you can be more informed so you can do something about it. Or you can pray for the people who are impacted and give energy, passion, and commitment to peace throughout the globe and focus intently on what you're supposed to be doing. But I understand very, very deeply, especially the challenge of Black people in America. Most of the time, when we see people being treated unfairly, we are like, oh no, lest they young and we think they're disrespectful. Lest they old and they've lost their mind and we think we can get some likes by posting a picture on social media. Lest they gay and we think that's sinful. Lest they're Wiccan and somehow we think they ain't going to hell. Unless. Let me tell you what God knows, sugar. Talk what you know. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got work to do.